Today, I am thrilled to have Tracey Jenkins on my show. And I was referred to her, someone who had listened to the show, loved the work we do on the Leadership with Heart podcast, knows the work, the great work she's doing. And so I'm just really excited to hear about all the good stuff she's doing. And maybe you who are listening can learn a lot too. So welcome, Tracey.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be
So
with you.
tell everybody right now, where are you in your leadership journey anyway?
Wow, that's a great question. I always feel like I'm always a student. I'm always learning. If I were to categorize where I am, I'm probably toward I don't know, the other side of in the middle. I think that, I learn something every day or, a way like I happen, something that's surprising, something that's new that always gets me to reflect on, is this the right way to address an issue, or should I be more thoughtful or intentional about how I convey some information? So I would say I'm always a student, and probably a little past the middle. So.
Oh, I'm sure with all the background and experience you have. I mean, like I said, just very, very impressed with the different work that you're doing. So I saw in there's a whole your bio is amazing, all the things that you're doing, and one of the things that you did, you spearheaded where you're at now. So tell everybody where you are at now. Actually, what's the place and the role that you're playing and that you're leading right now?
Yeah. So I am the HR leader for Sodexo, which is a French services company. I am the HR leader for our sports and entertainment business here in North America. So we are all over the country. We service convention and conference centers, stadia or sports venues. We also have cultural destinations and oh gosh, we're just over 26,000 employees. The majority of those are what we call casual or part-time workers. And yeah, we have a very exciting business, obviously one that was impacted by COVID, but we've come back very strong. So we're really excited about how busy we are and how our business is growing.
And you're kind of traveling all over the place, right? Trying to keep your hand on the pulse of what's happening with team members that are everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will say I get a lot of energy and excitement when I get out and get to talk to our employees and understand, how they're servicing our clients and our customers. It's been an interesting journey because the workforce, as you've probably heard and read, it's a little bit challenging today to find the right talent and find enough people to ensure we're delivering great service. But I've got a terrific team, and in part with our operations leaders, we are finding just wonderful people who really want to ensure that our clients have a great experience when they come to these venues.
So recently, or I'm not sure exactly when it was, you spearheaded the launch of an employer value proposition to your many, 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 many employees globally. Tell us what that is exactly, and then the impact maybe that you've seen as a result, and then maybe even challenges that you had in trying to really bring that to life.
Yeah. So we started this journey about 2 years ago, and we really started with focus groups. We talked to our employees, what makes us a great place to work? What do we need to do differently? What do we need to do better? And taking all of that information, we were able to come up with what we believe is a very compelling employee value proposition that really talks about the employee journey from when you join us, how you belong to our organization, what does it feel like to be a part of our organization? How do we ensure that this is a place that's accepting of you, where we meet you at where you are, and we provide programs and processes and really thinking about how our DE&I initiatives really play into this. What I love about our company is I can go to any of our venues and I will see people that are very diverse, who come to work as they come as they are. They feel comfortable there. Doesn't matter their background, doesn't matter how they look or how they show up. but as long as they have the right attitude and want to, again, provide great service to our customers, our clients, and deliver what I call become experience makers, where they're able to really convey that we want you to come here and have a great experience. Think about a ballpark. You're going out to a Major League Baseball game, and you want that to be a great experience with great food, with that we're providing, that they're getting great service from everything that they may need at that venue, from offering directions to telling and directing traffic, to really ensuring that that person leaves that baseball park feeling like they had a great day. And that's really what it's all about. And then again, providing our people career paths and career pathways to grow and develop while they're with us.
So one thing that I can see you're really good at is the kind of vision setting and kind of setting that path so other people can see it and they're excited to follow. And I'm curious to know, because I'm a visionary too, but sometimes I might struggle with making sure that I ground myself. Well, first ground myself in a dose of reality, which I don't know if I really want to do that, but we'll talk about that later. Ground myself in data and like tracking and metrics, and because I understand that those on the other end, which for me, it's normally going to be either my HR, people or C-suite folks that right on the other end, because we have consulting is what we do. And so that for them, they're always wanting to say, like, where do we start? Where do we end? How do we know we're successful? And it's like, we're looking at how are we moving the dial on all these things. What do you do? Do you have, I'm assuming you have just an entire infrastructure built into how you're tracking against kind of a success metric that you've set?
Oh, absolutely. We have our own dashboards within our company around employee retention, employee development, the quality of our hires and getting that feedback from our leaders. But also, as we have our employees out at these client venues, we're getting feedback directly from them about how well we're doing and, what can we improve on? Is the level of service what they expected? Can we find ways to up our game, if you will, on certain, client interactions or customer interactions, or, ensuring that our people look the part for that particular business. So we're getting indirect and direct feedback all the time. We have a process where we have a team of people who will actually go talk to the clients without the leaders who are there day to day and get their honest and candid insights. Some of our sites have client, once you leave a venue, you'll do a survey and give feedback about what your experience was like. So we take all of that information, and my team will ensure if we need to retrain on certain aspects of the onboarding process, or if there's additional training on some of our higher end suites business, or, if it's just simply how we're greeting clients. We have the ability to kind of go in and target training that will ensure that, we're doing exactly and meeting the expectations of our customers.
That's a really good way to look at it. I'm always, when I think of employee experience, customer experience, and oftentimes they're just like 150 things we could do, but it's saying what are the, synthesizing down what are the 3 things we're going to do that really drives like the bigger bang for customer and employee experience. So I love your more global view about the journey. And also I did a webinar earlier on some recent research that my firm Employee Fanatics just conducted. And we were talking about just the journey, the employee experience, thinking about it more globally, thinking about how do we redesign it. And I would venture to guess that a majority of people, if they're not in HR especially, and in the leadership, like senior leadership roles, don't really know a lot about that idea of journey or experience, and don't even think about when it starts and stops, or if it ever does.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's kind
true.
of interesting, right? I am curious.
Absolutely.
Well, you have, the tenure for your employees there is 7 years, which far exceeds the industry average of 2.5 years. What do you think that's about? I can kind of venture to guess, but I'm curious to know what you attribute that to.
Yeah. I think it goes back a little bit to what we were talking about when we were creating our EVP, and what we heard from our employees that was important to them. They feel like they can show up as they are, that this is a safe space. This is a place where they can be their authentic selves. and they can, worry about what others are going to think about them, or they're going to be accepted for who they are, and that we really spend a lot of time creating an inclusive environment, and one, again, that's welcoming to people of all backgrounds and all experiences. So I really think that people find this to be a place where, and heard this when we did our analysis early on, people felt like this, they felt like they were part of a family. You spend a lot of time at work, and we have these big events, and you're at a site 8, 10, 12 hours for a big event, and they feel like they're with their friends at work, or their work family, if you will. So the fact that we can create an environment where people feel like they belong, which is the number one pillar of our employee value proposition, says to me that we're doing some things right. We're not doing everything perfect, but that's certainly a good start. And we got, validation. We just did our employee survey back this spring, and we had a, what I would call a respectable employee engagement rate of 77%. We want to be at 80%. We'll get there. But what I liked about this year's survey over 2 years ago is we more than tripled the number of people who took the survey. So back in 2021, we were still kind of in that pandemic environment where, the pandemic was pretty strong. We didn't have as many people who took the survey. This time we had really nice, sizable numbers of participation, over 70%, and to get a 77% engagement score, we felt pretty good about. But again, more to come.
And so for those who are listening, when you look at the level of respondents, or the people who are actually responding, or those who don't, there's kind of like, if there's a lot less amount, there could be signs of apathy, and this thing of like not feeling like your voice will be heard anyway, so there's no reason to even take part in the survey. The fact that the survey is completed at a higher rate shows there's not a lack of it, or doesn't feel like there's apathy there, but there's more of like, okay, well, we've seen that there's action being taken based upon the voices that we use, our own voices, our own opinions, and we've seen some changes. So that's a very positive indicator to a more healthy culture. I've worked with clients on all sides. I've worked with ones that have like almost 90%, and I've worked with those who are done at 40-something%. And it is hard to drive that number up. But so in that case, I mean, it sounds to me, because you're just doing so much listening, and you're including all the different voices. I am curious, because you have about 400,000 employees. Is that right? Is it 400,000?
Globally, Sodexo is about over 400,000 globally. Here in North America, we're just north of about 115, 120,000.
That's still a lot. That's a lot to be able to say that, like, this pillar of belonging, like we have successfully, we're not there yet, but we are really making good strides, is a hard thing to say when you start to scale that big. And so how do you think that's possible, particularly because you have just a large, you said about 26,000 that are kind of like part-time, casual type of team members. Do you find, when you do those surveys, do you survey that group too? And does that peel out, like your numbers peel out with those? I'm just so curious, because it's such a large number, and to be thinking about, even when I'm working with ones that are organizations that have 5,000 employees, and ones that have 2,500, and it's like, you feel like, oh, that's just so hard to do when you get to this size. What do you think that is that makes all the different pockets of the employees that are working for you even create their own little mini cultures or environments of belonging?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And what we were most proud of this time when we had the survey this year was the number of those casual workers, or those part-time workers, were really the greatest increase. We saw a big jump in that population. Oh, and we made a concerted effort to ensure that they could take the survey. So you have the ability to do it on your handheld phone, or you could do it on a computer at the work site. So we made sure at our work sites we had the computers out, so people could take a 5 or 10 minute break. It was only 16, 17, it wasn't many questions, but they could take the time. We even had little goodies, in a little break room where you could go and get a snack and take the survey at the same time. But we tried to make it accessible as possible, because we really hear from people, and we found that to be a great thing. As you talk about these mini cultures, I love that question, because what we're finding is, we may have a population of employees who come from different cultures, and those cultures kind of come together. I've got one of our sites in Chicago. They actually celebrate the different cultures by bringing foods and preparing boxes of foods from different cultures so that all the employees can kind of get a taste of Cuban flavors
Mm,
or Haitian flavors or what have you. But they really play upon the fact they have all these different cultures, and they want to expose those through food. And they give employees a little box to take home to kind of go home and experiment and taste different different foods from different cultures. So that's
mm.
just one little example of how we have these mini cultures within our sites. So it's really
Mm.
fun.
Oh, it sounds so much fun. And going back to this idea of, well, the number of surveys increased as we provided more access. And it's, as we think of this in the DEI space, just having more access, with equity and like evening the playing field. When you think about, and often the part-time seasonal employee often feel like kind of redheaded stepchildren. And so in this case, when you start to even that playing field to say, I don't even have the tool I need to complete the thing you want me to complete. And then you do that and you just kind of change the ability and change even the way they see themselves and the way they see their level of importance to the leadership team there. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what do you feel is the best first step a leader can take in making their employees feel heard?
Mm. I think to be authentic and to create an open environment where people can raise their voice. I think it's one thing to say, I want to hear you, but to really demonstrate that in how you do it. And I've seen leaders do this in a very authentic way where they say, okay, everybody, put everything down, come in. And oftentimes having food or something that kind of relaxes people. Maybe it's a coffee break or a tea break or Coke break or whatever you want to call it. But you create an environment where people can really relax, come into a space, and you say, hey, look, I want to hear from you. And maybe they start with their own story that kind of breaks the ice and gives people the opportunity to begin to have the conversation.
Mm.
And again, being very authentic, being very open to opposing ideas, even raising what those ideas, those opposing ideas might be, acknowledging that, say, hey, look, we're not doing everything right. But this is the first step in trying to make this an even better place by giving you the opportunity to give me feedback. Maybe it's feedback I know, maybe it's feedback I don't know, but I want this to be a safe space in order for you to share your ideas. So I've seen this happen really kind of authentically and really just organically, and it's worked really, really well. And I like to think we attract leaders who have those qualities.
That's awesome. Oh, I'd like to know how you do that too. That's is that just because you have, since you have the EVP in place, the employee value proposition, and I'm assuming that ties directly to other strategic focuses for the organization, then maybe like if someone's researching or somehow in your recruitment language and just different things like that, it kind of attracts people in by expecting that type of behavior, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a combination of really putting it out there of what we want to be and, saying, hey, look, here's what we want to be. We want to be an organization where people can belong, where you can act and be your authentic self, where you can thrive and grow your career. And then, of course, being a live entertainment business, be live. We want you to come and have a great experience at whatever, venue you're at. And that really holistically ties and aligns to what we're trying to do from a strategic point of view. Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you have culture teams there that you've created?
Yes, we have what we call employee business resource groups, EBRGs for short. And I think we're up to 13, 14 of them. We have everything from the generation, cross-generation group to our African American group, Native American group, to our what we call our honor group, which is our veterans, folks who
Mm.
have served our country. iGen, which is, kind of that generation that's really focused on technology. So we have all of these wonderful groups. So Together, which is our for women. We have all of these groups that do really terrific things, and I have seen really a nice uptick in our business of people joining those different affinity groups, if you will, and they're a real foundation of what's who Sodexo is, and it's I'm really proud of that. I've never worked at a company where I've been able to join so many groups. I'm a member of 3 of those different
Wow.
groups, so
Wow.
yeah, it's wonderful, and the programming's terrific. Guest speakers, workshops. There are some live events. So if you live in a geographic, one of your business resource groups has an event, you're open to go to those if it allows. So yeah, it's one.
Do you feel do you see any challenges in those groups? So there's been like an evolution where there are kind of the business resource groups, but they have tried to almost like centralize it so that it's not broken down the way it is and feels maybe splintered for some from maybe the outside, maybe some in the inside, who knows? But you get up, there's a mix of reviews on that. Do you see that there are any challenges either internally to those groups and or externally to those groups or between groups? And if so, like maybe what have you maybe put in place or tried to do to kind of bridge gaps that are there?
Well, one thing I've seen that's been very positive is several of those groups will get together and do a celebration of some sort, or they will invite others to come to a workshop or speaker they're having. They'll say like, iGen is sponsoring a conversation with, you name the person in the technology field, and they'll open it up across EBRGs, and they'll people who are not affiliated with an EBRG. So if you're not a member of one of those, you still have the opportunity to attend a meeting or a seminar that's being sponsored by one of them. So I think it's more inclusive than exclusive, and certainly collaborative.
Well, that's good, but not really. You don't really see any. There weren't, never been any stumbling blocks because there are people who are listening now. Some who don't even have the first ERG or EBRG, right? They don't even have the first, and so some of them there could be a hesitancy of their organization to even start down that road. To say, oh gosh, is it going to be like too much, and are we going to be able to handle it? I mean, I work in this space, so I know some of those things, but I'm curious to know just specifically for your organization if you maybe had some, and then you're able to get over that, and then it's able to flourish past a certain point.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything. And frankly, I think people that aren't members still feel like they can attend events as they wish, and there isn't the pressure to join one, so it's
Yes.
really open to whether you want to join or not. And then you still get the benefit of some of the speakers that or workshops that are offered. So
Very cool. So for those who are listening right now, this is that part of the podcast where I like to ask, was there ever a time, the name of the podcast is Leadership with Heart. I wrote a book called The Art of Caring Leadership and the Art of Active Listening. And do you ever feel like there's a time when you maybe didn't show up as that leader with heart, or maybe you didn't show up with as much care as you would have want to? And if so, what was that story? What was that exchange or interaction like? And then what did you do to kind of come out of that? And I'm not saying come out of that and now I'm like this perfect example of a person, but that you come out of that and you're more evolved. Can you think of a story?
yeah. Hey, look, I'm not perfect. I have bad days just like everyone else. And there was a day where I needed to deliver some not so great news to someone, and I wasn't prepared for the meeting. I had other things that came up along the way, or the day just didn't go great. And, I decided I couldn't have that conversation today. Or I found out the person had to talk to was having their own bad day, and it probably wasn't the right time to have that conversation. And I had to pivot, and I had to say, hey, look, let's do this. Trans about it. I'm not having the best day. And, we need to have a conversation, and I want to come authentic. I want to come real. I want this to be an exchange. I really want to hear from you. I know you're having a bad day. Why don't we reschedule this? I also had a time where I didn't have all the facts and I had already scheduled a meeting. And I was very transparent and said, you know what? I was going to have a call today with you, but I don't have everything I need. I'm not prepared. And let's postpone this. Let's reschedule this at a time where you and I are both ready to have the kind of conversation we need to have. So, if you talk to anybody on my team, they'll tell you Tracey's going to be real about it. If she's not ready to have a conversation, or, if the environment's not right, she's probably going to pull back and wait until, the right time to do it.
It's so interesting because tomorrow I'm releasing an article and it's called, "Is it ever okay not to listen?" And it's literally about what you're talking about, kind of teaching people what to say when they actually aren't really prepared to listen. It could be like you're saying now, it could be their head is hot because they just came from one meeting and then someone else wants to talk to them and they really can't do it because they can't focus and they need to kind of take a breather and process and decode and decipher and, take it all in. And so it's funny that you said that. Literally, the article is going to be posted tomorrow. I'm like, I should have put Tracey's story in there. Oh, okay. So I am curious. Now that we're at the part of the podcast where you kind of become the podcast host and you get to ask me a question. I don't know if you know anything about my background, but you can ask me anything, kind of workplace culture, engagement, any leadership. Those are kind of the spaces I'm in. Anything that you have to ask me.
Well, I'm very curious about why you initially started this podcast.
Oh, well, I had already been I had written, by the time I had this podcast, I had my first book. And I had already been like writing on LinkedIn. I wrote my first book. And I just kind of felt like there's a need to have another medium to get to kind of, I call it evangelize the message of leadership with heart. And so I knew that podcasts were a real big thing. It's 2018 when I started the podcast. And I said, I'm going to just do this. It'll be another marketing arm. It'll be another way to evangelize this message, and it'll just be another medium. And then as I got about to episode 25, and now we're almost at about episode 300, got to episode 25, and I go, I start to think about how brilliant all the guests were. I was like, I am learning so much. And then I'm thinking, but there's a lot of people who don't listen to podcasts, but maybe they read books and they do articles. So then I was like, I think I need to do a book. And so I wrote that book, The Art of Caring Leadership. And it was so much, it was like 80% of the people's voices that were up to that point ended up showing up inside that book. And then from that book, it was like another book that was on listening, and it's because listening is the work we do. And so it was just kind of, I think it was organic. I let kind of the need speak to me. And I just felt like so compelled to hear all these real brilliant leaders, and felt like I needed to spread their messages everywhere. So that's
awesome.
the reason.
I love it. Yeah. So, as you think about where we are in the state of the world and the state of business, I know you touch a lot of leaders, and you talk to a lot of leaders. Are we making progress in the leading heart?
This is a tough one, because I think in pockets we definitely are. And I wouldn't do the work I do if I didn't think I was producing some level of change. I do see, I have hope. Like had an organization I was working with a couple of weeks ago, and I was with them for 2 whole days, did like 2 keynotes, 3 workshops, a listening session. It was a lot. And as I was with them, they already were attracted to me because they felt like the work in the caring leadership was so much aligned with their values. But as I got there, I just saw so much like desire to get better in the eyes of the people that were there. And then with that team themselves, so much alignment. I felt like I had hope, like their desire to continue, not be check the box people, was so clear. So I feel like there's more, like there's going to be pockets of that are going to continue to give all of us hope and to drive, just more positive progress forward, in my opinion. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
So those are great questions.
Oh. Well, they're sincere. I had the chance to listen to a couple of the podcasts, and I think I saw one of your TED Talks. So I think it's awesome. You're doing some great, and I have hope too. I have hope that we're getting better. I have hope that this next generation of leadership, who I find to be, wanting feedback, wanting to, get the stimulation of this environment, and ensuring that they are better and that they're getting opportunities, and we got to make sure we're giving them opportunities. I think it's just a reminder that, what you say, leading with your heart and really listening and being able to give that good feedback is so critical and important. So I'm trying to be intentional about that even more because I have a multi-generational direct team now. And I was sharing this with my colleagues the other day that, I am learning so much from having this dynamic, just how people are interacting just on my little small team. And it's just good reminders. So
Oh, I love your smile. You have such great joy. There's a lot of joy in you, which I appreciate. That's just it
mhm.
illuminates from who you are. It's like a little aura of joyousness, which
Well,
I
thank
love.
you. Thank you.
For those who are listening right now, what might be a couple pearls of wisdom you'd leave them with? Is thinking about those who may be kind of at a crossroads, could just need a little extra motivation, just a little extra oomph to get them through the week, or just I don't know, just be at a tough time. Who knows? What might be a couple pearls of wisdom you leave them with as it relates to leading with heart?
Yeah. Well, you asked me a nice question at the beginning about where you thought I was on my journey. And, I think having a always wanting to learn mindset, no one's perfect. No one's, a perfectionist, or no one is an expert at leadership, and we're always learning. I would just say have an always learning mindset and be willing to take some risk and try and test a few things, see what works. You know, corporate culture is so different with every company, and what works here might not work there. And I think we're all on a leadership journey, and leading with an open, honest, mindset, and just being willing to listen and learn. I strive to have high emotional intelligence, and I'll back off when I think it's not the right thing to do, and postpone and put things away that we can have a conversation later on about. So I'm on a journey just like everyone else, and you're going to make mistakes along the way, and just be willing to embrace them, fail fast, and move forward. So
Ooh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I do think having, I'd venture to guess people who are listening, because I'm always talking about that the leadership journey is a journey and not a destination. We're never going to arrive at this place. And I venture to guess many people that listen like the message is why they listen, because they like that idea of, oh, I don't have to be perfect. I can just get a little better every day. And so I love your philosophy of having that always wanting to learn mindset. And that's definitely a great way to kind of send us off on our day for sure. Oh, so good. I'm so glad that there's probably so many other ways we can take this. This probably won't be the last time you and I will be together, and I'll be, interviewing you in other ways and working somehow with you in other ways. I can just feel it. It's just, like I said, there's so much goodness here. So thank you for being with me today though, Tracey.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
And for those who are listening to the podcast, don't forget to share the episode with other people. They all can get better just by listening to these little episodes. So thanks everybody for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast.